Hello, business people. You're my people. I have found my people. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for sitting here this long. I asked Dave just a minute ago, I said, I wonder if there's a different group dynamic between the first speaker and the last one after 2 hours of this drink and maybe that drink and a couple other things. This might end up being a really fun session. I'm the marketing director at ABT Media and Marketing here, or over there in Panama City, Florida. Give it up for ABT, that's right. And I have to say, I have to tell on my, I'm sitting over here, and I have to tell on somebody over here. When Jason was talking and he did that really great joke about horology. Horology, the study of women with bad morals. Somebody over, I'm not going to point her out, but somebody over here said, I knew him from somewhere. Now, just look at the blushing and you can probably tell who said that. I'm not doing it. Nevertheless, I move on. When I was tapped to speak tonight, I, like all of us who have spoken, first thing into my mind was, okay, now what? What am I going to say? And I thought to myself, IdeaCamp. Great topic for IdeaCamp is ideas. How about that? Let's start there. Start with just using the words that are in the title of the thing. Idea. Okay. That's something that I love to talk about, actually. Love to think about and read about. And to practice, coming up with new ideas. And as business owners, as my people, we're always looking for the next good idea, the next great idea. The thing that's going to change our industry, the thing that's going to change our business, the thing that's going to change our life. Well, I want to talk for the next few minutes about how the people who do that. And it's simpler than you think. First thing I want to do is recommend to you a few books. Because I want you to know where this came from. That's right. I want you to know where this came from because, unfortunately, I did not develop these things, or I'd be making a lot of money for this. Nevertheless, I will show you. The first one, most important one, the one if you're going to do any of these three, look at this one. It's called Lateral Thinking. A man named Edward DeBono, who is, in my estimation, quite a genius. Read this book. Now, from that and the sort of techniques and the methods of thinking that he describes there, a couple of other books have come. More practical, teach you actually how to put this stuff into practice. This one is called Disrupt, written by a guy named Luke Williams, and he works for a design firm in New York City called Frog Design. You may never have heard of Frog Design, but you ever see those TVs that had the Mickey Mouse ears on them? Frog Design. You ever see the first Macintosh computer, how beautiful and simple and elegant that thing was? Steve Jobs went to Frog Design to have them develop that thing for him. So, kind of a big deal. He describes how at Frog they disrupt current thought patterns, ways of doing things, and rebuild them into new things. Great book. Short book, too. Third one. Once you get one of these genius ideas and you're ready to change the world, you're going to have to stand in front of people and pitch it to them because you're going to need their money to build it or to do what it is. If you ever have a creative idea that you want to pitch to somebody with money and you want to actually see that thing get off the ground, read this book. It's called Good in a Room by Stephanie Palmer. Wonderful book. She worked for MGM Studios, listened to over 3,000 movie pitches to movie executives. And through all that time, she started taking notes, what worked and what didn't. She can tell you, if you want to pitch a creative idea to important people, read this book. That's where all this stuff came from. I'm going to attempt in the next few minutes to boil all that down into a very simple 15-minute pitch so that you can learn how creative people actually do what they do. Now, coming up with ideas. The moment we start talking about ideas, business ideas or otherwise, the first thing a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm not creative. The creative people do that. Right? We have the creative people in the world. We have the Walt Disneys and the Steve Jobses and those guys. And then they have us who work for those guys. Right? Yes, that's true. Yes, there are creative people who do what I'm about to show you kind of as a matter of course. They think that way naturally. It's just kind of how they're built. But just because Mozart was a genius and wrote his first opera at the time, by the time he was 5. Doesn't mean you can't learn how to read a music scale. It doesn't mean you can't learn how to play piano, right? You can learn what these guys do naturally. You can train yourself to do. So, I'm going to draw pictures on this flip chart. Part of the problem with why we can't think of new ideas is the way that we're sort of trained to think. And let me draw a picture. That's a concept. It's an idea. It's a way of doing things. It's a pattern, a system, whatever you want to call it. And we're trained and we kind of think naturally in what Edward de Bono and others calls vertical thinking. We have this idea, a concept, a way of doing things. Can you all see this okay? It's called vertical thinking. The fancy term for it is dialectical thinking. What that really means is, okay, we have an idea, we have a way of doing things. You and I are going to talk about it. I'm going to say something about this, and then you're going to say something back. You're going to say, yeah, I think that's a good point, but what about this? And then you're going to say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, but we've all done this. It's arguing back and forth, right? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until at the bottom of this, we hope, we think, we have the truth of the situation. It's a logical way to argue things out. It's called vertical thinking, and we do it every day. We have to do it every day. It's exceedingly efficient and effective for what it is. Vertical thinking is basically Western thinking. If you've ever read Greek philosophy, Socrates, the Socratic method, that's what this is. You make a proposition, I make a proposition. I ask a question, you ask a question until we get down to the bottom line truth, and that works great as long as you're just analyzing already existing ideas. The main weakness, the only problem with dialectical thinking, vertical thinking, is it has no capacity for coming up with a new idea. It doesn't help you at all come up with anything new. You can only analyze what's already out there. And so we spend our days doing that, don't we? In our business, I had this same problem I've had for 20 years. How do I fix it? I've talked it out. We've hashed it out. We have worked on this. Yeah, I know you have. But you're still dealing with the same idea. So, how do I get beyond that? What do I do? The simple answer is you have to break the pattern. You have to break it. The way you're thinking, our brains are wired and are so good at analyzing, making patterns, putting things into categories and boxes, defining things. It's how we survive our day. However, it doesn't do anything for bringing new stuff into existence. So, hence the term lateral or horizontal thinking. Looking intentionally, on purpose, for different ways of doing things. And let me show you how that's done. This is what the greats really do every day. They're the ones, I'm a big Disney geek, and Walt Disney started a group of people that are still in existence today. Anybody know what they're called? The people, the Imagineers, my heroes. My heroes, these people. The Imagineers, all they do all day is what I'm about to show you. And here's a little saying they have around the Imagineer shop. How many Imagineers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
1.
Answer? Does it have to be a light bulb? Right? Okay. Everybody in this room, when I said light bulb, you pictured a light bulb. You know what it does? It screws it. You analyze that whole thing. You said light bulb, and at the end you said light bulb. Their initial reaction is, well, why are we talking light bulbs? Why can't it be something else? So, that's how they do it. Let me show you how this works in a couple of simple techniques. And excuse the noise I'm about to make. Okay. I'm going to, again, draw a couple of pictures to illustrate a couple of techniques you can do tomorrow to start thinking about the way you do business and how to do it differently. First one. Okay. Little circle, medium-sized circle, big circle. This illustrates what is called scaling. Scaling. Now, what I'm telling you are the ways that these people make new patterns. They break the existing patterns, they look at the situation in this whole new way, and then they snap it back into vertical thinking. And they say, okay, what's good about that? What's not good about that? Scaling. If it's small, make it big. If it's expensive, make it cheap. If it's cheap, make it expensive. If it's black, make it white. If it's tall, make it short. Let me show you how this actually works. An example of scaling. I told you I'm a Disney geek. In the 1920s and 30s, lots of illustrators out there, lots of cartoon makers out there, making the same thing, right? Black and white, all these different types. They showed them little short cartoons before the movies in the movie houses. Well, Walt Disney said, that's great. I love it. It's wonderful. But it's not nearly long enough. What did he do? He took the cartoon short and he scaled it into what? A full-length feature animated film. And everybody went, you're nuts. Nobody's ever done that until Snow White came out, and then everybody wanted to do that. He scaled it up and he changed the way everything was done. Who's an iPhone person? Pull your iPhone out. Steve Jobs is a classic example of this. Remember the old Blackberries, the very first sort of PDAs and all that? 1 million buttons. All these little tiny buttons, and you couldn't remember what they all had, little abbreviations on them and stuff like that. Look at your iPhone. How many buttons are on your iPhone? One button. He scaled it down. He said, this is crazy. This is nuts. I want an incredibly complicated piece of machinery to be very, very simple for the user. And it was revolutionary. And it changed everything. A simple, simple scale down. And all they do is say, what if we just had one button? And I can guarantee you when he said that, somebody in the room said, seriously, Steve, seriously, we can't make a phone with one button. Make a phone with one button, and let's see what happens. They broke the pattern, and then you start the vertical thinking. Then you start analyzing, is it going to work? And by the way, they don't all work. Some of them are just crazy. What you're doing is intentionally making a crazy idea. Something new, something different. Another way. This picture illustrates what we call reversing. Reversing. Take an idea and turn it intentionally backwards. Those of us who are old enough to remember video rental stores, right? Okay. Now think about this. Think about the paradigm. You had your card, your video rental card that you paid for. You went down there, you picked something off the shelf, you took it home, you watched it. If you didn't return it in time, there were late fees. Okay? That's the paradigm. I left my home, I got my movie, I came back home. What if I took that paradigm and said, no, you're never going to have to leave your home. The movie's going to come to you. Then I said, forget the subscription, the little card thing. Just pay a monthly thing. You keep the movie as long as you want, and I'll drop it into your mailbox. How about that? How about we take everything about the movie store and flip it around backwards? And we get Netflix. And within 2 years, did you ever see a movie? Have you ever seen an industry disappear faster than the movie rental store? Just unbelievable. It just poof, they were gone. Because one simple reversal changed everything. That's how these people come up with these new ideas. Simple things, scaling, reversing, intentionally breaking the patterns, the way you think. And there's a big one going on in my industry right now, marketing. Marketing used to be, you had to reach out and grab the person with whatever they were doing, make them pay attention to you through TV, radio, billboards, all that stuff. And they still have their place for you ad people out there. However, the internet, among changing everything, it changed advertising, because now what happens? They have what they call inbound marketing. In other words, I don't have to guess and hope that during your football game you want to buy tools or whatever it is I'm advertising. You're going to tell me what you want, and I'm going to give you the ad to match it. Now, how do you tell me? You ever type anything into a search bar? You type anything into a search bar anywhere, you're telling the internet, I want something. It is a complete reversal of the way advertising was done. It has changed everything. And we are dealing with that every day, trying to get in front of that. These things are happening all the time. It's a very exciting time to live. There are reversals and scaling and all of this stuff going on all the time. And so I guess the question I want to leave you with is, tomorrow when you go into work, take a few minutes and try some of this. Take a few minutes and just say, okay, we do it this way. What if we did it the opposite way? Just what if? Just play with this stuff. You don't have to do it. Play with it and see what pops out. You might be surprised. You might be an industry leader this time next year with a new product, service, something nobody's ever thought about before. This is how they do it. It really is just that simple. So with these techniques, little guts, you can go places. Thank you all very much.